see that policy is very, very important for everything we want to do, and in particular, different tools that we can use to actualize policy formulation, policy implementations, and also policy making in general. And I think since we started the program from the keynote session, we have Dr. Tayo Aduloju, who spoke on Beyond 2023, policy solutions to drive economic growth in Nigeria. And that was a fantastic session. There's no better person that would have given that talk. Nothing is the director of NESG. And also just yesterday, earlier today, we have Mr. De Friday, who also spoke on promoting transparency and accountable governance in Nigeria. And as you've heard from me this morning, he's also one of the team members of Accountability Lab. And also this morning, we'll be having a fantastic session. I'm very confident about Mr. Wale Ajiboye, which is on the role of digital petitions in driving policy change. And by the time I introduce and speak a bit about him, you see that there's no other better person to give this session than Mr. Wale Ajiboye. And we are so grateful for him giving us the opportunity and also creating time to end this session. You are welcome once again. So Mr. Wale is the country director for change.org. I feel like a lot of things that we've done at Policy Shapers lies on change.org, from the petition of Reform IF, having over 70,000 persons signing it. It's through this platform, and we've been able to have meaningful partnership with them. Ebenezer can speak to this briefly, and it is a very important opportunity to have them join us for this Naija Policy Hackathon. But even beyond the role change.org have played, Policy Shapers, like a lot of transformative petitions, a lot of actions has been carried out both in Nigeria and also in Africa, people at large due to petitions submitted by Change. So it is an honor for all of us, particularly a learning process, to hear directly from him, what are the critical rules in digital petition to drive policy change? What are the undertones to it? What are the challenges? And is this even effective at all? I've met individuals that have questions. For the petitions, we are just signing petitions and nothing has been done. I'm very confident that Mr. Wale will give us practical examples of how digital petitions have caused transformative change when it comes to policy making. And I really cannot wait for him to share more of his thoughts to us. So just going to read his biography, and it's just also to affirm that there's not a better person to give this session. So Wale Ajiboye is the country director of change.org, and is an organization that empowers people everywhere to create the change they want to see through digital advocacy. And before this role, Mr. Wale has worked as the Associate Director's Fellows Program, Acumen West Africa, where he oversaw the implementation of the leadership strategy in the region and supported the business development drive to build the West African Fellowship Program. His career has focused on enterprise development by providing advisory services to startups, growing businesses, and relevant stakeholders. Beyond all these, he also worked on several seminar enterprise development projects, such as the World Bank Women X, Masak's 10,000 Women Scholarship, Shiva's Regaut, the Fenton Fund, and HP's Life Project in Nigeria. His contribution to some of these projects helped his organization receive the Global Citizen Award 2013 in New York. These of us in social impact and even at large, this is a very powerful award that is given to individuals that have caused transformative leadership. I think one of the recipients was Amina J. Mohammed, the current Deputy Secretary of the United Nations. So we are very honored to have a counterpart of Her Excellency here, giving us this session. So I want us to relax. I want us to see how to listen well, but more importantly, this session is very, very critical in our policy making and in our hackathon processes. So in no time, I'm very happy to hand over the mic to Mr. Wale for his session. Over to
you. Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for joining this call. Let me just say first, it's a privilege to be here at this point because what Policy Shapers have really demonstrated for us is that there is the reason we're doing the work is because of people like you, people who stand up, who use their voice. When most people would rather, take on something really small. When people would rather say, I'd rather try to see whether we can negotiate something that's only going to be beneficial to you alone, because there's a way you can do this in such a way that you can use to just create, a brand for yourself. But you have demonstrated that, when a group of people decide to make change happen and they have the tools and resources to make it happen, they can't get it to the finish line. And I think this is one of the examples that we need to be showcasing, which is one of the reasons we're supporting you as an organization. But so let me just give a brief of, a little bit about, why I do the work I do. And the reason I'm saying that is so that you can see the connection point in my journey. When people ask me to share my bio, I'm like, I usually don't want to share it because I'm like, you see me all over the place. And the reason I'm all over the place is because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn in how do we build new narrative for Africa? How do we build new narrative for Nigeria? How do you build new narrative for our young people? I've been in situations where I've had to carry my passport and I'm showing up somewhere and someone is saying the young person is coming from Nigeria, and they'll say those guys are fraudulent. I've been in an interview session in 2008 in the US, and when I was about to talk to the recruiter, I heard the recruiter saying to the people, "Oh, we work in other parts of Nigeria, but we don't work in other parts of Africa except Nigeria. They're very fraudulent." How do you do an interview with someone who's already calling you fraudulent because you come from a country? So the reason I'm doing some of this work is some of the challenges that I have faced personally, and some of my friends and some of the people that I have worked with. And so in all my journey, one of the things I've always wanted to do is how do I use my voice? And I think what change is doing and what Policy Shaper is also doing is how do you bring people's voices to the table where we can have conversation and how we can make change happen. So today, really, I'm going to talk about 4 things. How do we use our voice, the role of storytelling, and how do you know who we need to engage, decision makers? These are some of the things that we think about. And around those things, how do you build a movement around it? Because what you're seeing today, even in this conversation, is that not only are you pushing policy changes, but you're building movement around those policy changes. And while you may not even see the numbers around you now, I can assure you there are people who are already thinking about it. Let me just say this quickly. Wikina is on the call. Wikina was at the National Assembly on Friday. And in that conversation, I had sat down with the special assistant to the speaker, and he had mentioned something. He said, "Incredible work you guys are doing. By the way, we saw your petition on reform English test for Nigerians. It's really great. Even Mr. Speaker himself has picked it up, and he has already started conversation with the members of the government in the UK. That information is not even available to us. It was just a privilege of being in that room. So what I'm saying is that there's a movement that's following you, and that movement, you may not even see it now. And so when we think about petition, it's the same thing that we're telling people. People usually see petitions as just one thing that you just write something and embarrass someone online. No, it's not that. Petition actually work. And let's start from the history. Today, if you look at Nigeria and if you look at what has happened to people from whistleblower perspective and what goes on in the country, you will see that there has been one way or the other, people write letters. They call it letters. It would come from letter, and then it would come from, someone putting an article out or writing newspaper. These are all forms of advocacy that we're doing. What petition now does is a very, very clear system that allows you to talk about the issues that you really care about, making an ask that you want to see that change happen, and also then using it to also build a collective power of the people, because now you're not just saying I'm the only one. You're saying there are 100,000 people, there are 1 million people, there are 50 million people, there are 100 people or 200 people, because not every petition should have the same number. Most people have always thought about petition as the higher the number, the more the impact. We have seen petitions that have created change in 4,000 with 4,000 signature. We have seen ones that have created change in 500 signature. So just give me an overview that whether petition, we have always been using it. What change has done is to create a platform and tool that will help anyone anywhere, regardless of whether you know someone or not, to create an advocacy for yourself for the issues that you care about, using our platform and using it to leverage and promote starting the conversation with the right people who would help you then decide that. So what then is, while you'd be thinking about your petition and why this is important? I think the first thing is, and I'm going to just, the reason I'm not using too many slides, and I'm going to show you 1 or 2 things, is I really want to have conversation because I also want to be sure that there are people here who are thinking of their work from an advocacy perspective, but also want to build into a movement, because I think the processes are different. One is you can start a petition on the platform. The other thing, you can also use that petition to begin to create collaboration around those issues, because for many petitions, we believe is a marathon. And so that's why I want to give some time for those who have questions, so you can also advise on how you should think about it. So the first thing is this: petition is really about using your voice. I think that's the first thing. It's about your voice, and your voice counts, regardless of who you are, regardless of your education background, socioeconomic status. Your voice should count. And what that means is that your voice can come in the format of petition to decision makers who are responsible for the issues that you care about. And to do that, it means that you need to think about the story behind it. Because one of the things you need to see is that when you're using your voice is not necessarily the only thing that will inspire people. You need to bring other voices to it. And in bringing other voices to it, it's not that you are going to write and then gather everybody to come and talk about it. What you're essentially saying is that I will put my voice in it, but people will see they will see their voice also in that story. So the first layer is using your voice first, understanding that the use of your voice is the beginning of it. And it can come in having conversation with people. It can come in starting a petition on a platform. It can come with not only starting a petition on a platform, but also speaking to other people and letting them know, no, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to stand up for something, because using your voice means you're standing up for something. But in doing that, there's a format to it, which is you need to learn what we call the storytelling part of it. What is the storytelling part of it, right? And the storytelling part of it is, how do you tell a story so compelling that people would want to be part of what you're doing? Now, it would appear that that storytelling is the only thing. It would appear that the storytelling is why you get a lot of numbers. You can have a great story, you can have a great ask, and guess what? It doesn't mean that you have like the highest level of followership, even when you sign your petitions, whether it's on a platform or any other channel that you use. But what is important is that your storytelling can inspire other people, which is what I always tell people when they say, does it really work? And I tell them it works. And it works because it has different threads. One part of it is that your ask can be so clear that somebody can say, you know what, let's make it happen, and they will support you. But the other one is that you can also inspire other people from your storytelling. So if I can talk, for example, in the case of Wikinas, in the case of what policy shapers have been able to do, whether you're, in the conversation around stopping issues of the injustice that we are experiencing with the English test, that is one part of it. The ripple effect of what has happened is that story, the fact that the organization has started that, means that there are other people who would then take up other issues. It could be about tuition fees. It could be about, visa policies. It could be about traveling. It could be about, what of international students, what other things are they getting? It could also be in Nigeria, because we have seen the ripple of what has happened, and people are now demanding, even for you see what we are seeing with JAMB, some of the things we're seeing with JAMB right now. A lot of people are asking, why shouldn't we make JAMB 2 or 3 years as well? So what I'm saying is that the storytelling we're talking about is not just in creating support for the petitions that you're doing on your platform. It is also creating opportunities for other people to tell their own stories, which is what is beautiful about it. So yesterday, I decided to check on my data just to look at the ripple effect of the conversation that has happened with Reform English Test. I will tell you one thing. I have seen over almost 100 different blogs writing different things, talking about different things. And these are some of the data I'm going to be helping your organization to see, because I think there's a data part of what you're doing that we need to really support you to show the impact of what you're doing. And that's why this is a role that as an organization we're able to play. And so the point is, the storytelling part of your work has multiple dimensions. It has impact for those who are interested in starting their own petition. It also has impact on even a journalist, newspapers, TV stations, radio stations, who are very keen on looking for the next story and conversation start, can see what you're doing as a place where they can lift story. And we have seen it. I will tell you one thing, the last 7 days, I have seen over 20 hits on our platform, where people are talking about different issues, different conversation. Now, there's a reference to my organization on that, but the issue is a form of discussion that is happening there. So what you find out is that as you're building that story and you're writing your petition, remember that you're not just writing that petition to the decision maker, you're writing to inspire other people. And what we have seen is that there are many people who are taking the lessons of petitions, or people using their voice, and are using it as a teaching moment for other young people. They are using it as a teaching moment for their partners. They are using it as a teaching moment for the people that they work with. They are using it as a teaching moment to, for people, for other people to be inspired to say, see other young people doing something. But they are also, more importantly, carrying that conversation forward and saying, you know what, I saw something somewhere. I think we should pay attention to this thing in this country. And so in many ways, even if your petition is not just, getting the result that you want from the aspect of decision makers you're working with, it does have an impact on the social consciousness of the people. And we're seeing that conversation, we're seeing it when we walk into those rooms and these things happen. I think the third thing is a lot of people don't think about what we call decision makers. And when I call decision makers, what we're saying is that who are the people, when you come to the issues that you're writing your petitions on, that would respond to you in a way where you can get the result or the answer you're looking for. There's a tendency for people to always get carried away when they look at things in the country. They can say, let's write to the president, we should write to the minister. But what we know as an organization is when it comes to deciding on a petition or deciding on a case, it is very important to understand that the highest authority doesn't necessarily mean the one that is decision maker. For example, everybody wants the president to respond to something. But under the law of the country, there are people who are responsible for those things. So I'll take an example. If you are having challenges with, let's say, with an advert on radio, or let's say you saw an advert, there was a petition that we saw about a petition from a university in Nigeria that appears to be biased against women. The student protested on our platform. At the end of the day, they took down our adverts. Now, but imagine, let's say you did a petition and you're addressing that petition to the president of Nigeria or to the governor of the state. That's not going to happen, because the person that is going to decide to take that thing happen could actually be someone from the adverts, association. It could be APCON. It could be any of those people who are the custodian of anything around billboards, around TV, around radio. That person is the decision maker for that. And I've had to educate people on this to say, do not target, for example, the president of the country when you know that, for example, is the local government chairperson or the governor of the state or the police officer or, the head of the school that will do that thing. So the point, third thing is, how do you identify those who can decide on the case you're asking for? So finding decision makers is a very critical component of advocacy, because many times people would often go to the wrong people, go to the police station, go to National Assembly. Yes, the good thing about National Assembly, and I want to tell you one thing, that right now, the kind of relationship we are building with decision makers, because one of the things we found out as an organization is access in Nigeria is not available to everybody. And what that means is that sometimes you want to write to the MD of a bank. To get to the MD of a bank, you have to go through many protocols. You have to write an email, you need to call someone, and that in itself, by the time if there's a case or the ask you're looking for, it is very urgent. It means that you don't have any opportunity to be able to get you get a solution to that problem. So what we are doing as an organization is that we are now helping to map on the different issue areas where we have seen that most people don't know who are decision makers. So our role in the country is helping to also identify decision makers. So if you put a petition on our platform, part of what we'll be helping you to look at is we look at the back end. We want to see who are decision makers they are. We want to see, number one is your ask. What is the ask itself? Is it a good story? And if it's a good story, who is that decision maker that you need to help, that we need to get for you? And so in finding decision makers, we spend a lot of time doing that. And what I would encourage anyone that wants to do any petition or fight any issues, that please be very clear. Who is the person responsible for the issue that you're passionate about? It's not everyone that has the authority who has the jurisdiction to make those things happen. And so even if you look at from whether it's EFCC for the police or LASMA or any of road safety, all of them have their different protocol. All of them also have their area of expertise, but also the law is very clear on who's responsible for taking certain decisions. And guess what? Not every decision lies at the desk of the president. And I think that is something I want to remind all of us to think about whenever we are trying to fight any issue, always think about who are the decision makers that you should be targeting. And the final thing I'll talk about is what is already happening, even on this call, is even after you've found your voice to write a petition, even after you crafted a very great story, and you already identified decision makers that will help you to making those things happen, you need a movement around this. Because one of the things, and I'll share this so that I'll explain this in a little way so you understand what I'm saying, deeper than just saying that we need to build movements. The work of fighting and using your voice is a lonely work. Let me say that again. The work of fighting or advocating for an issue, especially in a country like ours, where it takes a few, like people will tell you they've tried it before, it has never worked. There was a time that Nadeco did something. There was a time that this CLO did something. A lot of people would say it's not going to work. In other words, it means that whatever you're trying to do, you're already getting people that are going to be against you. They won't sign, but they will not even let you do it. What that means is that you can't do this by yourself. You need partners, you need decision makers, but you also need a movement around. That movement will help you to hold yourself together. They will help you amplify the work you're doing. And they also be the one to remind you of your why for starting that issue. So you can imagine what that means for a campaign around policy issues on gender. You can imagine what that means on a campaign on issues of education. But the students today are not in university. We have been running an advocacy for ASU to go back to school, and to go back to the classroom. We've been talking about it. We've been having this conversation, but we haven't seen a lot of other people come out. We haven't seen people like, parents, people are not talking about some of these issues. And that's because they just say it's not their own problem. And so even for the issues we're saying, you need to build a movement. If you've done the right thing using your voice, creating a nice and compelling story, and also identifying the people that will decide those things, you need a movement around it. Because even if you achieve that thing because maybe you've become very popular, the government understands you, you would always feel lonely, because there will come a time in the cycle of the work you're doing that even those that in your team will tell you that I'm not sure this is going to change. And this is why it is important that you understand that you need a community around you, and that community will hold you together. They will help you amplify the story, but they'll also be there to help you, so that in moments where your strength is when you're becoming tired, there'll be other people who are going to start and making it happen. And a good case is what we have seen with the campaign that Wikina, your work policy shapers, have actually done. Because what you will find out is that while you're fighting and speaking about this and talking about it, we have seen a ripple in other places where people are beginning to take those conversations, which is why I said, just imagine that we did not even know that the Nigerian government, beyond just the fact that they've already, been talking to us about how they want to support, they've actually taken the responsibility before even asking them. They've gone ahead to be doing this. And unless we now find what we call a way to bring everybody together to create that movement in such a way that when you stand up as a voice for the issue that you are passionate about, you are not standing alone. You are standing not only within organizations like ourselves, but you are standing with decision makers, but you're also standing with other people who are keen on seeing what you will achieve with it, because they may not even believe in the issue that you're doing, but they may believe the fact that you're using your voice, that if this time can happen, they are also going to pick up issues on how to make sure that young people, for example, can get mortgage for 2%, for 5%. Because what we are seeing is this: we have allowed a lot of people to take over our destiny and our lives in this country or in the continent generally. And I'm speaking broadly because if you look at what we are seeing and we're learning today, is that when people, for example, say to me that, Gen Z, millennial, they don't understand it, I'm like, some people didn't understand our own generation at one point or the other. People should just saying things like, they are lazy, they are difficult to understand. It's because we have not created a platform where people can come to the table and share their ideas and feel heard, and not feeling that they need to call someone who can make it happen. So today, what we are seeing is that whether it comes to looking for a job, whether it's coming to getting help, whether it comes to, getting simple things like you want to get your visa, or you don't want to pay excess VAT or pay excess tax. It's almost like the institutions that are meant to support you to ensure that you get equity in anything you're doing, they are also part of the problem itself. Or even if they are really, really passionate about helping you, there are other bottlenecks. And even when you're not fighting them directly, the impact of what they are doing is affecting all of us. What that means is that we have come to the point where the institutions that are meant to protect and help us are also struggling. And I'm not saying they are struggling because they don't want to help. They are struggling because there's a general issue that's happening to everyone. And we have come to the point where we are requiring new voices to make things happen. And I think that's why I'm really so passionate about what Policy Shapers is doing. And right now is that they're inspiring other young people, they're inspiring other people to think about the issues that affect them and the institutions that they need to help to solve some of this problem. So my hope is, as we start this conversation, is how do we open more channels of communication with other people who want to be part of a movement to solving some of the things that we're seeing now. And I think that we are getting to that point where we are seeing the possibility in this. So I'm going to pause now, just in case once there are questions. I just wanted to just run us through this. Then I will talk about the second thing I want to talk about, which is how do we become a stronger community? How do we become a stronger movement? But I want to just pause now if there are questions and comments, because I know I've spoken for almost 20 minutes now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wale. I think that's so fantastic, from storytelling to having a community, and it can get very lonely, like as Ebenezer also kind of affirmed. But yeah, so we want to open it to questions, and you can just raise up your hand or submit to speak. And maybe if you're in a place where you cannot speak, you can just type if you have any question now. Is there anyone? I guess I'll go first because I penned something down. Actually, I have a question. So, like, thinking about it, like, we have Paul, but Paul, you go after me, sorry. So thinking about it, we are quite fortunate to see that, like, the Nigeria government is supporting the whole Reform Act stuff. But there are some instances when you are advocating for a policy change, at let's say at the global level, affecting the continent of the country, but the government is against you. For example, let me put this scenario where, imagine this IELTS scenario, and the government is saying, they support the claim and you're advocating against it. So there are such instances that could happen. So what do you think as a community where government institutions are totally against such policy making? How do you think we can be the community to work towards that?
Yeah. Kendi, can you just repeat that question again?
Oh, okay, great. So I was saying, when you're trying to advocate for policy changes, let's say at the global level that affect Africa or the country, but the government of your country is totally against it, speaking to support what you want to change. So at that instance, how can we navigate that business?
Okay, all right. So maybe let me take it in context as well. So if you have an issue that you want resolved, let's say for young Nigerians now, but the government is not really keen on supporting you, but there seems to be, the decision maker, for example, would be someone external, right? Okay, all right. I think there are two ways to it. And I say two ways to it because I know that the government will always want to, most of the time when there's a huge movement or a huge outcry or a community around some things, they want to be on the good side of history. We are seeing that when it becomes something that is growing and the government sees there's an opportunity to be part of it, they want to be there. But I think the second and the most important part of it is that to what extent is what you're trying to push for beneficial to the country in the long run? Because that's one thing happening. And I'll take an example. I'll take one example now. A lot of young people are trying to get into schools outside this country. A lot of people are trying to get into or get opportunities to go to school and all of that. Ideally, the government should be able to support you. I have a theory, for example. I believe, for example, people like yourself who are trying to solve issues on policies, who are trying to solve issues on, for entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs trying to solve issues for the country, I believe they should have a special sort of support from the government, for example, right? And I think that could also involve that, some sort of like even for special passports that can be given to them, which you find out in some other countries they do that. But I think that's not happening in the case of Nigeria. And so if you think about that question of how do you get the government of Nigeria to support a global campaign that helps young people, I think is to demonstrate it from an economic standpoint. They should show the result of what that means for them, because government always wants to do good. There's no government that doesn't want to do good. And I think that one of the biggest challenge with creating campaign or building communities around what's something that government does, for example, we've been talking about how do you get more women into the House of Parliament, into the National Assembly. We're talking about how we should have, women in certain offices. We have not seen that reality, but we are seeing in other parts of the world. If we want to be able to do that, to get government to be part of it, I think that we need to strengthen the capacity of the people that are going to do that advocacy. And when I say strengthen the advocacy, it means that in terms of the knowledge base, in terms of the movement that needs to be there, we need to empower them with not only the tools and the knowledge, but we also have to make them a force, because it's only when you become a force that the government can listen to you. And I think that's where the government is going right now, where the reality of Africa is going to, is that everybody is looking for a solution to calm the nerves of the agitation we're seeing. I don't think that the government would outrightly want to help, but I think that we can't, for the kind of thing that we want to do and the kind of thing that you want to solve problem for, start to think about the solution beyond just having government just shift the policy, because there are certain things that you can begin to do in smaller bits, in small bit size, that over time, if you aggregate it together, it can change. You can see what has happened in the renewable energy sector. Before people started saying, let's do something renewable, a lot of people have started, they joined our session outside this country. They went for a lot of seminars outside this country. They had a movement around the different issue areas, and they used that to then work with international organizations like the World Bank, like the IFC of this world. And because of that, they were able to use their diplomatic channel and conversation with the government to say, you know what, we have seen a ripple in the way young people are doing stuff around renewable energy. We have seen a ripple. In fact, part of what you need to see is that even for the startup tech ecosystem, for example, they have used their work and their relationship with funders outside this country to compel the government to develop a startup bill. Think about that. It's almost like you need to move out of the country to build a huge movement, and then the government has no choice than to be part of that success story. So I would say that if any, for those campaigns particularly that the government is not really willing right now, because maybe it's not it's not on their agenda at the moment. If you build a movement and you work specifically with institutions that have direct linkages to the government, it creates an opportunity for you to be able to, bypass all the protocol that you have to go through if you are going from, I'm thinking we should do this, to actually demonstrating that you have seen results, you have seen the impact of the work, and now the government is really ready to adopt it. I'll pause now because I see that Paul also has a question.
Okay, so thank you. I have two questions. Thankfully, okay, sorry.
Oh, you can go ahead, Paul. It's fine.
Okay, so I have two questions, but thankfully, the questionnaire who went before me is the answer you gave has answered one of them. So because in 2019, so just to go very briefly, in 2019, when I went for an interview, for a fellowship, my question to them, they asked me what am I most passionate about. I said I was passionate about aggregating, like social advocacy, social advocates. I think that they are disaggregated. There are lots of people doing great work, in advocacy, but there's not like a community of these advocates, so that it's more powerful. It's a movement, And so after I asked that question, because I didn't get a good enough answer and I didn't even get into the fellowship, I then made a conscious decision in my life to switch from advocacy to politics, to enter into active politics, So my question was, how do we arrest that slide? Because I understand that there are practical people like myself who have been, strong advocates. I was in sustainability advocacy. I joined Susty Vibes. I was with Africa Cleanup Initiative, joined lots of sensitization, rallies. I've done a lot of advocacy, and then I found that it wasn't very effective in Nigeria. So your answer about, making it a global movement first before then forcing the hand of government in Nigeria partly answered that. So the second question, how do we, arrest that slide? How can we create a community, a strong community of advocates across various policy sectors, so that they know that there is that support, they're supporting each other and others are supporting them, so that people don't make that decision to move away from advocacy. Oh, advocacy is not very effective. Let's go into active politics. Because there's use for both of them, right? It's just like being in journalism and say, being a journalist in Nigeria is not effective, so let me move to Ministry of Communication. You need both of those people, So how do we stop that slide from, those people who are putting pressure on government to those who are saying, oh, let's get into government to make this change happen? Thank you.
What a great question, and thank you for sharing that. And I think that I saw Chuka's question, which is also very similar. Is there protection for advocates? I'll answer you, Chuka, on that. But that's a very great question. I think the first thing I would say is we need to build our own platforms. And I'll say this in a way that it's, I'm not trying to, because I've also had to go through fellowship, and most of them are international. I would say that. So I'm not saying that from the lens of, we shouldn't push for those things. But I realized quickly that to be able to create the kind of community and the movement we need to find our own way of building people. When I say building people, it means also we need to create our own platform. Think about it. In this room today, if I have one slot to put someone in an opportunity, it's only one person. There are 10,000 other people that won't have access to the opportunity. What that means is I can only create one space for one person. But the point is, how do you flip the table in such a way that there's no table anymore? Everybody sits on the floor. Because this idea of a table for a few people cannot work if you really want to make change happen. And so when you ask the question is, how do you build a community of advocates and to come together to work with you? I think that there's one thing that is missing. We have not created a collective call for action. We haven't. And so I'll tell you one thing. So if I go to Ghana and they say, oh, Nigerian, they've come again. They ask me about jollof rice. I go to Sierra Leone, they ask me about jollof rice. I go to Gambia, they ask me about jollof rice. And I'm like, you guys don't get the point. Pizza is not a Nigerian food. It's from Italy. Wine, there are drinks, vodka, there are different things that have come from different organizations, from different countries, and they've gotten the benefits. For Africans, we have jollof rice, but none of our jollof rice on the menu of any international organization. You can find it on the plane leaving Nigeria, but you can't find, or leaving Ghana, or leaving Sierra Leone, but you will not find it on the international hotel outside this country, and it's for, which means that with all the fight around jollof rice, we have not gotten the benefit economically. And so what do I mean by that? There's a tendency for different advocates to follow their ideas to the point where they isolate other people. I think to build a community, we need to have a collective call for action where everybody can see themselves. And one of the things that I think I will want to recommend to your team is the role of storytelling. If there's anything that I'll be really keen to helping you to do, is even you as an advocate, how do you rally people around you, the work you're doing? And I'll tell you something. In 2004, when President Obama came, and I'm sure a lot of people have watched that video called The Public Narrative. That video of DNC elect the convention of the Democratic Party in 2004. He gave an amazing speech that set the tone for his election, for his campaign in 2008. And what he did was to build a call to action that everybody saw themselves. He just made it very simple. I will share with you. You can go and watch it, or maybe you want to talk about storytelling one day. We can have that session. But he created a call to action and built a nice story that people saw themselves in it. I think one of the biggest opportunity for you, Paul, as you think about how you rally people around, is that very few people have created a platform where everybody can see themselves. And so if you see whether it's enough is enough movement, Occupy Nigeria, you will find that there are people that are isolated. When you see NSAS, you will see some of the things that it appears that only a few people, let me not say a few people, some people, collectively supported it. But there are some people that were silent. They never said anything. They were not part of it. How do you move people who ordinarily are not part of that movement to see themselves in that movement? Because the point is this: to build a movement, especially in a place that is so fragmented based on religion and ethnicity, like the world we've seen in West Africa, you need a call to action that everybody can see themselves. So the question is, Paul, what kind of call to action do you want to create? Are you asking that young people are the ones that can make change happen? And that's true, because let me tell you what I found out. I found out in the history of Africa that when people say that the leaders of tomorrow, the young people are the leaders of tomorrow, I always tell them that they're lying to us, because they were already the leader of the tomorrow at the time that they came in. They were president. Some of them were president at the age of 32. Some of them were president at the age of 35. Some of them were already minister at the age of 40. Some of them were already in a special advisor to minister at the age of 25. So why would anybody now tell us that leaders of tomorrow, we are now leaders of tomorrow, when they at that time were the leaders at that time? What that means is this: if you want to begin to create a movement for young people, we need to create a movement that everybody can see themselves. We cannot create silos because our numbers are not strong enough, because we don't have the economic power. And once you don't have enough economic power, it means, because let me explain what economic power means. It means you have no access to media. What social media has done is to show us that you can have other media platform from a traditional platform. But guess what? Majority of the people who we need to sensitize and they need to form our movement, they are not on social media. They may be getting information from social media from their families who are very, they are very connected to what's going on, and they can get a sort of information from them, but that is already watered down. So if you flip it a little bit and see what has happened, those who we consider at the bottom of the pyramid, who are from the rural areas, appears to be more organized. So today, if, for example, the police wants to get information from a particular city, they go to the taxi park. And in that taxi park, they can track all their members around that. So what that means is this: we need to create a collective action. Finding that answer is the other part of it. And if I want to link that to the question that Chuka asked, Chuka said, do you feel that people will feel safe? I would say that there's a huge danger for everyone, by not speaking up in the first place, because we consider danger from the point of personal harm to us. So as a way you can think about, they may come to arrest me. The point is that we're already facing it. So whether it's police brutality, if you feel like, if I'm going to stand up for something, they will come for me. Already, we are part of the numbers, and that numbers means that there will be one day it can come to you too. So there's already danger. Let me just clear that all of us who don't stand up for something, we're already in danger. But to the question that you are saying is that for those who then stand up and who can see you, there's a protocol to that. So for example, if you want to run petitions and you want to run it anonymously, you also can do that. It's not that you cannot be safe. That is possible, you can do that. But I think that having a face to it, having a movement around you, having a protocol in place to help you, especially when you're fighting for issues that really are very quite sensitive, I think that you need to also think about your own safety from the standpoint of people around you. And there's a protocol to that. We can share more about that, but there are not things I can share in public space. I just pause now and see a lot of questions around. I'm seeing some questions around. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments there. But I'll say that yes, yes, we need to build a collective action, but also we need a platform to engage people. I just pause there if there are other questions now.
I think that's a quick question. Thank you so much. Online on the chats, can you address time of maturity with regards to petition? I'm not sure if you saw that in the chat box. So the question is, how do you know that the petition is mature to deliver? It's a question asked by Oluwatosin Akintola.
Okay, how do you know the petition will be?
How do you know that the petition is matured to deliver? So she gave an example, which is that gave an example, which is that the English test success story started a long process before now. So how do you know the time it takes for a petition to be matured enough to deliver, the time of maturity?
All right, so let me say, and thank you, Tosin, for asking that question. I've seen that now. So I would say that for every campaign, the cycles will be different. We call it a marathon. Number one is a marathon in the first place. For every campaign you're doing, it's a marathon. However, there are some issues that they have a specific timeline. So for example, let's say someone who has been condemned. There was a campaign that we did on blasphemy where someone has been sentenced to prison. For every day that you don't push that campaign, that person is suffering. In that kind of instance, you're already late. Every day is very important. But there are certain petitions that their cycle itself, the process of changing those things will require a lot more. So for example, if the government has come up with a policy in their education policies, for example, in the case of the English test now, they will require, for example, if they need to pass it through their own members of their own parliament or have a conversation. It may also require that they need to do an act to say that going forward, international students can be exempted if they can prove that they are from the following countries. Those policies and some of them may be backed by law. And so the time of maturity, I would say it depends on the issue area. And it depends on, what the process of that means. So if government is saying, for example, for anyone to be able to do JAMB, and for example, if you want to do your for JAMB now, that it's 1 year, validity is for 1 year, for example, they have to do that. It may require the support. It would definitely require a change in the act. That cycle in itself can be 6 months, can be 1 year. But the bottom line is that the moment they've accepted that they will process that change, you're already on your way to your victory. It means that the moment that the Senate or the House of Assembly says that, you know what, we want to change something about this, then it means that you're on your way. So I would say that time of maturity is based on the issue areas. It's also based on decision makers and also the policy, the law that exists in that country. In some instances, depending on the way the institutions work, it can be shorter, but it depends on also the issue area. But I would say that for every petition, it has its own sort of like his own cycle, and also which is dependent on the policies, the existing law that happens in that country, and also sometimes the media attention that it gets, because the media attention that it gets can force the hand of any one decision maker to fast track the process. So, Oluwatosin, every petition itself can typically have a timeline that can be short or long. However, with a lot of the things that we provide as support, we can shorten that journey. So in the case of the English test now, we are going directly to decision makers. We are using the back channel to talk to other people. And while it may appear that this journey may take us 18 months, this can also be shortened if we are able to get the right people on time. So I'll say that it depends on the issue area, and it also depends on the existing law that affects that issue as well. But media plays a vital role, because when there's huge movements and there's a lot of outcry, you'll be shocked that even the president of the country can issue an executive order that can make that happen. So I'll say that, yes, the time cycle is dependent on the issue areas, but see every petition as a marathon and not just a sprint, not just a 100-meter dash.
Thank you so much for the responses. I think you said you have other part of your talk, and I wouldn't want us to miss that, like a final thing you want to hope to share with us. We have less than 10 minutes, but we'll also love to hear the other part. But those are all great questions. Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see that our time is almost gone, but can I close now, Kendi, or you want to, is there another question?
Oh, yeah, no more questions. Sure, you can close now. Like I remember you said you wanted to stay some additional stuff. So yeah, over to you.
All right, so this is what I would say. When you see things that has happened, and I recommend that you all read a book called, I'll type it in the group chats. It's called Food by Randomness. Food by Randomness. Let me post it in the group chat so everyone can see it. And the reason I said, okay, let me put it, Food by Randomness. It's a book that was written by a man called Taleb. And in that book, he talked about how most people focus on success, and that the success of this country, success is someone who has money, who lives in this. Thank you, Paul, for that. Someone who's, someone is very successful, is doing well, and everybody looks at that story and then believe that everything has to be around that. I think in a way, the narratives of the world are not completely true as we see today. And when I say I was not see by true day, is that at every point in time, people come up with system and structure that creates a way that all of us have now signed into what we call a belief system. And that belief system is why we do the things we do. So if you hear, for example, if you are not a lawyer, if you're not an engineer, if you're not a doctor, you're not considered. In fact, just think about it. In secondary school, for many people who've gone to high school, they will say that science today are smarter than art students. It is not true. That's a big lie. We all know that now. But just think about it from the pressure that gives young people to see that if I'm not a medical doctor, then I'm not as smart as someone who is a painter. That's not true. What I'm saying is that the entire world system has created a system where belief system has limited people. It is what's affecting our gender issue, is what's affecting our education, is what's affecting our politics, is also affecting us as a country and also as a continent. And how do we change this way? One is to understand that every season and every time that things happen, there's a shift of power. What COVID taught us is that there are many things that we can do differently. And I think that this is what I want to leave you with. With the way the world is going, we are seeing the failure of capitalism show up. With the way the world is going, we are seeing that the religious system and all of the things that we've seen around gender and all of those things, we are seeing that they are completely not true. But to beat that system in itself and be relevant and be a strong advocate or someone that can create policies, you need to define what your journey would be. Because that unique journey that you create for yourself is what would then help you to really position yourself going forward. And this is what I'm saying. You are in the best moment of your life. You know, there's a tendency that for all of us to say, oh man, you know, Naija used to be better 20 years ago. Africa used to be better 35 years ago. Things would always continue to shift. But what has shifted is that there are new powers that are emerging. There are new voices that are emerging. People are tired of those who currently represent us, who don't represent us well. When I say don't represent us well, that if you begin to see some of the information you are seeing around us, if you know the back end of that story, you will not judge yourself wrongly. You will not think that you are too young to stand for something. You will not think that if you do it, you do it alone. What I'm now saying is that you are in a very great time now. People are now looking for new leaders, looking for new voices. And it is the reason we are working with people like your organization, because you are showing to us that you don't need to have a PhD or become a professor or be the president of a country to stand up for your country. What you are doing to create policies to solve issues for young people and for sectors is what we call standing up for the right thing and being on the right side of history. I want to encourage you to understand that people are looking for young people like yourself. Excuse me. People are looking for young people like yourself. People have resources that are ready. They're just looking for new champions. Unless you step out now, the new voices that are coming would come out. And I'm going to close with this. For those who follow biblical reading, I use spirituality a lot when I'm talking about certain things. And one of the stories that fascinates me in the Bible, the story of Elijah. And if you look at Elijah was a man who called down fire. If you follow the Bible, if you believe in biblical principle, he called down fire from heaven. And then at one point, he killed like 400 enemies, right? Because of that. But guess what? He got tired one day and he said, I am the only one. And then in the Bible, God talked to him and said, no, you're not the only one. There are 7,000 people of equal power that can do the same thing you're doing, that are just there waiting for an opportunity. What that means is that for every time you stand up, there are 7,000 people that could have taken your space. And your role is to understand that whatever opportunity has been given to you, whatever moment that you have seen, whatever opportunity comes to you, take it as a sign that there are opportunities for you and you must move with speed. We are going to the point where your education, your age, your location don't matter. What matters is the vision for yourself. Don't be discouraged that Africa is struggling. Don't be discouraged that Nigeria is struggling. You are at the best time and the moments of your life. An organization like yourself, we are standing up. And not just that, we are standing up with other partners, other individuals that will be ready to fight on your behalf and work with you. This is just an open call to say that for our organization, for myself, and for the team that I have working with me, we are ready for the next movement. And for those who are ready to work with us, we are just about to start. So thank you very much. And I'm available for other resources that can help with this. But thank you so much for a time like this, because I think that I've learned so much from you. And not only just that, I see the possibility of Nigeria because of what you're doing today. So thank you so much, and God bless you.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. Like the closing remarks could not be better. Like I think if there's one thing that's what Mr. Wale shared now is that this is not just a competition. This is not just an hackathon. This is not just for you to win like 100,000 naira prize for first position. As Eben said, is the least thing that matters here. It's the fact that we are standing up and also realize the fact that there are people out there that are ready to support us. One of such is, the Change.org team led by Wale. So thank you so much. I personally think there's no better motivation for the participants than what you just said. And yeah, we'll keep standing up, even though there are tons of people that could do it. But what distinguishes some of us is that we are standing up, and we hope to help some other person stand up to get it right. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's been a pleasure. I'm sure the team can reach you, and definitely Policy Shaper will keep partnering with you. Thank you for creating time to attend this session. I can see the chat was blowing up, and people are very, very much inspired by your closing remarks. We're also going to put this on YouTube very soon. So if you need to access some of this thought process, if you want to also go back to these discussions, everything shared, because it's a lot really, you can always go on our YouTube platform. And thank you for sharing your LinkedIn page. I'm very sure people will connect with you, and it means that it's open to us, connect with us, helping us shape our project.
Thank you once again. I added it today because I also want us to start German. So anytime you guys do anything, tag me on LinkedIn. I want to be able to promote you now. It's part of one of the things I want to be doing going forward. So if there are people that are writing stuff, please tag me. We want to support you. We don't have a lot of time anymore. And as much as we have resources, let us leverage it. That's why I added that. So in case you want to ping me, please, I'm available for you. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you very much once again. Absolutely, if you look access feel like a masterclass session, definitely it's more than a masterclass. Thank you so much, sir. And with that, we'll close the session for today. Happy knocking, guys, and we're going to convert for the next session. I think we have some office hours with mentors. As I said yesterday, let's make use of this office hour process. It's going to be helpful in our policy making models. Thank you so much, guys, and see you later. Bye-bye.